Sharp Game here, coming at you on another episode from ChooseYourRelationships.com, author of Love Can't Wait, which you can find on Amazon.com. And someone brought an article to my attention yesterday about interracial relationships, and is it a cure for better relations within American society? And this is on the Washington Examiner, the WashingtonExaminer.com. And they had some interesting points. Some stuff I agree with, some stuff I don't. But there's this myth that if blacks and whites get along and have relations, that somehow the country will be better off, and that if people will get along better and they'll somehow it won't be a lot of violence and aggression within society between cops and non-white people. And if that was the case, it would have happened already. It would have happened 50 years ago. I mean, if you really think about it, based on my experience, most people in American society, they don't do anything outside of their comfort zone unless they're forced to. So most people are raised to be a certain way, and they pretty much stay that way until something happens tragic or until they're forced to. So just because you sleep with a white woman or a white man, or vice versa, that doesn't mean that things are going to be better. The laws are still on the books. The public policy is still in full effect. And I know back in the day, there was this loving, I forgot the white guy that got interracial relationships passed. Back in the day, interracial relationships was actually illegal, but a white guy fought all the way to the Supreme Court and got it passed. And anything that happens in this society, a white guy or a group of white guys is going to come to the table and decide if you're going to get it or not. This is why you got a lot of these white women out here protesting, marching last week. Because ultimately it's going to be a couple white guys that are going to decide if they're going to get whatever they want, whatever that is. So I'm going to read some of this. Race relations is deteriorating. Tensions between black Americans and the police are rising. Confidence that America's racial problem can be resolved is at an all-time low. Really. The solution: interracial friendships, dating and marriage, and transracial adoption may be our best hope. Let me explain. But first, let's review some stats. Recent polls shows that 3/4 of whites don't even have a black friend. Of course not. Most whites don't have black friends. As a matter of fact, I don't have any white friends either. because I never met any white people that say we were friends or they wanted to be friends. So I get it. And while rates of interracial dating and marriage are on the rise, they're still quite low overall. Research from dating websites shows that while people in their 20s and 30s claim to be open-minded when it comes to dating other races, few actually do so, especially whites and especially those who live outside big cities. Yeah, interracial relationships, most people are not going to do it. Most people are not going to date out. Now, they might be open to it, but for most people, it's just not going to happen because a lot of people just don't have the charm, charisma, and it gets to be too uncomfortable. It's too much. I think it's too much of a new experience for a lot of people. Things get awkward. They don't really know how to. I mean, most people today, let's just be honest. I mean, most guys especially, they don't know how to talk. I mean, they're afraid of people. They get uncomfortable. They don't know what to say. And most women, they have to feel comfortable. They have to feel like they have to feel good when it comes to everything. So just those dynamics in the present amongst two people that never came across each other, just having a conversation, that's probably not gonna work for most people. See, most people like to be comfortable. Everything has to be fun. And if it doesn't feel good and if it's not fun, most people opt out. This is why I say most people just want to stay in the box. And they just want to be accepted and want to be mediocre. So I get it. So the professor of psychology at UC Berkeley, lead author of a 2011 study that examined online dating racial preferences, has said, "We're ways off to being in a post-racial era with dating. It appears that crossing the racial boundary is very difficult, especially for whites. But once the boundary has been crossed, i.e., once participants have been contacted by someone of a different race or ethnicity, they are more open to the possibility of a interracial date." Oh, hell no. I mean, look, there's no such thing as a post-racial society. Not in America. If you travel around America, it's segregated. I mean, if you live in states like Illinois and Wisconsin, I think Wisconsin is the most segregated state in America. There's no such thing as diversity in this country. Just because you can go to the same restaurant, same bank, or eat at the same, or just hang out at the same areas, that's not diversity. Diversity is when you sharing everything across the board evenly. That's diversity. Or when everybody has the same amount of access to resources. That's real diversity. Diversity is not me going to Taco Mac, sitting down with you at the bar, drinking and eating. That's not diversity. Diversity is not me and you working at Bank of America together. That's not diversity. Diversity is everything. We all have the same amount of access to the same at the same goddamn time. That's diversity. It's a equal playing field. That's diversity. And it's not like that in America. And it's never been like that in America for 500 years. So when it comes to interracial marriage, in 2013, nearly 46 years after, that's the Loving versus Virginia struck down all anti-miscegenation laws, the research center found that 12% of newlyweds were interracial. That's the Loving case versus Virginia that was passed, which made interracial relationships legal in the United States. And it found that about 6% of existing marriages were interracial. Marriages between blacks and whites are still among the least common. And while interracial marriage has become much more acceptable to the broader public, according to the 2014 polling from Gallup, there are still tens of millions of Americans who believe that interracial marriage is a bad thing for society. And most of those people that think interracial relationships are bad, they're probably white. I don't necessarily think interracial relationships is bad. I just think it's not productive, and it's not going to make society better. Really, I think it's kind of like you're just fucking dating a white woman or dating a white dude, or dating a black woman or dating a black dude. You're not really doing anything that's going to help anything. You're kind of like neutral in my eyes. I mean, at the end of the day, either you're moving forward or you're going backwards. Either you're growing or you're dying. So every move you make in your life, you have to think like that. If this move is going to help me progress or degress. So I just don't think interracial relationships is helps with anything that happens within society. You know, I'm not the moral police, but I'm just saying, we just have to be practical here. Perhaps the most promising trend is in the area of transracial adoption. Stats from the Department of Health and Human Services find that 40% of adoptions are transracial, up from 28% in 2004. Yeah, there's a lot of couples adopting interracial marriages, people adopting kids that's married or whatever. But that shit has been going on. You got gay couples that adopt kids. That's nothing new. Why does this matter? If part of the problem is that Senator Marco Rubio and others has asserted, anyone who is not black will never fully understand the experience of being black in America. That's true. Then perhaps part of the answer is for white people to understand what those experiences are by changing the ways they interact with black people and vice versa. That's probably not going to work. My experience has taught me, if someone hasn't had the same or similar experience, and if someone doesn't have empathy for a person or persons, they're not going to understand where you're coming from. That's just been my experience, just across the board. It's one thing to live next to or socialize or work with people of different races, but to have a close relationship with or marry someone of a different race is an entirely different experience requiring an entirely different level of commitment. Exactly. That's what I just said. The same goes for having a child who's a different race than you are. It means growing invested in their lives, emotionally and otherwise, and of course, it requires spending vast amounts of time with them, their families and friends. Most of all, it means loving them and being loved by them. When love enters the picture, relationships are transformed, and so is one's understanding of what another person experiences and why it matters. One goes from getting a window into that person's world to becoming part of that world. And that's a big problem in America because there's no love out here. It's almost impossible to have a loving, healthy relationships out here because the environment doesn't support it. The only love, unconditional or real love you have out here, guaranteed, is between is between parent and child. That's it. Now, there's always exceptions to the rule. It's possible they had to have a relationship between a man and a woman, but it's a process. That might take years. It's not gonna happen in 6 months. I highly doubt that. Not in America, because the environment doesn't support it, and in most cases, most relationships is set up to fail. It's set up to fail. It was set up to fail before you were born. You just didn't know it. And you have judges and attorneys are trying to capitalize off of it. And if you don't believe it, go check out how much the justice system made off of divorce courts and child support and alimony and all that shit. It's a $50 billion business. That's just how much they made last year. I don't know about the previous years. And they don't teach anything about marriage. You don't get no courses about marriage in school, because it's set up to fail. And it's set up to fail because a lot of guys cannot support the family the way they used to. And they're continuously increasing the woman's wages along with benefits, and they're decreasing the man's wages and benefits. So it's, that's how it is. So, you can't really have love for each other if people are bickering and arguing and struggling and having financial hardships, especially if they have kids together. And people don't really have empathy for each other. I mean, people will look at television all day and see somebody being mistreated, or go to work and see somebody being mistreated, or drive past some of the most filthy ghettos and neighborhoods across the country, and they don't have a problem with it. So you can't have love in a society that's like this. It's impossible. So interracial relationship is really not the cure for better relationships. The cure for better relationships in this country is you have to empower yourself. You have to, whatever you want for us, mainly black people, whatever we want, or any non-white people, they can apply this too. Whatever you want, you have to find a way to force the people in the dominant society to do it. You cannot ask them to do anything. You have to force them to do it. You have to tell them what you want. And you have to give them a reason why they should do it. If you don't do this, this is going to happen. If you do this or else. But you cannot come from a position of weakness. You have to have something to leverage. Leverage your money, leverage people, etc. I learned this shit in the military. It's not rocket science. People already know how to do this shit. This is why a lot of black people, and a lot of other non-white people were assassinated and killed. And this is why a lot of people go to jail. It's like the people that go to jail, they don't go to jail just because, assuming people go to jail for drugs, they don't go to jail just for the drugs. They went to jail because they were helping a lot of people in the community, in their neighborhoods, and their family. That's why they went to jail. It wasn't just because of the drug. The reason why Gaddafi got killed, it wasn't just because of him creating his own currency. It was because he wanted to merge all the nations together and have their own currency and have their own resources. The reason why Martin Luther King was killed is because he wanted to empower black people, just as Malcolm X. They wanted to empower black people. They wanted to help black people take care of their own families, help and show black people to be do for self. That's why these people were killed. And it didn't have anything to do with relationships, because a lot of these people were already sleeping with white women and white men. So that didn't really have anything to do with it. So that's why I said this article, it makes a few good points, but a lot of bad points. Because if it was all about interracial relationships being the key to better relations, it would have happened 60 years ago, in the 60s and 70s. So you tell me what you think, and leave your comments and questions below, and click on the link below if you have any questions as well. So if you like what you heard, subscribe to my channel, check out my blog, chooseyourrelationships.com. Until next time, Sharp Game is out. Peace.